Senator French,
Here.
Senator Ide,
Here.
Senator Hicks,
He's excused, he'll be a little late.
Senator Kolb,
Present.
and Chairman Steinmetz.
I am here. So, well, welcome to the Senate Ag Committee. There's a couple things I want to say before we get started tonight. Welcome, Senator Kinski, Chairman Kinski. First of all, last week we had a very spirited debate on one of our bills, and I'd like to apologize to Senator Ide because we had a few guests who were testifying that did not use his proper title or go through the chair appropriately. So we will not allow that to happen anymore. And my apologies, Senator Ide, for that.
No, thank you. Apology accepted, but we didn't need to do that. I got picked on, and I probably should have got picked on because I wasn't doing what I should have been doing.
All right, with that, the reminder is, please address the senators and the chairman, go through the chair. Let's try to be very civil and respectful of one another, especially you, Chairman Kinski. And we'll get started. So how we're going to operate tonight is we'll have Senator Kinski go through all three of his bills and visit with us about them, and then we'll take testimony on all three bills at the same time so we can kind of expedite this, and they're pretty interrelated anyway. So with that, Senator Kinski, would you bring to us your bills?
Thank you, Chairman Steinmetz, and thank you for allowing me to appear here in front of you at this late hour. I bring you a trifecta of firearms bills. The first, Senate File 148, is preemption of local firearms regulations, and that's a very much needed fix-it. The second is an enhanced concealed carry permit for improved reciprocity. And the third is a capital carry bill. Circling back to the preemption of the local firearms regulation, Wyoming has a law on the books that says the state is the sole government that regulates firearms. And thus it preempts local jurisdictions. And that's done so that if you drive from one town to another, and one you're legal with your firearm and the next you're not, and driving a different county, all of a sudden you're not legal again. So the state wants it to be uniform throughout the whole state. So it preempts local firearms regulation. Well, there's a problem in that there's an error in the statute such that it reads that local entities are preempted from regulating only firearms manufactured in Wyoming. And how that came to be, I can show you with the statute that I've got in here. If you turn to the first page of the statute, you'll see it's 68401, and it's firearm, weapon, and ammunition regulation and prohibition by the state. So that preempts local entities. It says, except as authorized by Wyoming statute such and such, no city, town, county, political subdivision, or any other entity shall authorize, regulate, or prohibit sale, transfer, purchase, delivery, etc., of carrying or possession of firearms. So it means the state is the only one supposed to make those regulations. That's 401. Turn to the next page, and it begins a new bill. 68402 begins the Wyoming Firearms Freedom Act. And without going through the Firearms Freedom Act, it basically says any firearm that is manufactured 100% in the state of Wyoming, it declares is free of federal regulation. Here's where the problem comes. On 68403A, if you go down to Romanet 7, VII, it says this act means 68401 through 68406. So it loops the made in Wyoming portion of the statute into, or the preemption statute into the made in Wyoming statute. So that resulted with somebody carrying and being cited, and it went to the Wyoming Supreme Court, and the justice said, To the extent that the Wyoming Firearms Freedom Act preempts regulation of firearms by cities, towns, counties, political subdivisions, and other entities, it does so only with respect to firearms that are manufactured in Wyoming. And in this case, the firearm the fellow was carrying was not manufactured in Wyoming, so the citation was upheld. So the fix, it turns out, is very simple, and I'm hoping I might get an award for the shortest piece of legislation in Wyoming history. If you turn to the bill, Senate File 148, you see at the very bottom, it opens up 68403, the one that we just looked at, the list of definitions. And it goes down to Romanet 7, and it says, this act means Wyoming statute strikes out 401 and inserts 402. Thus, the law would now read that any firearm is preempted by local regulation. So that, I don't know that it gets any shorter or sweeter than that. When the LSO sent it to me, I said, surely there's more than that. And he said, no, that's all it takes. So that was kind of fun to find that out. The next one is called Enhanced Concealed Carry. And it's important to emphasize off the bat that this does not change our constitutional carry. This does not change our concealed carry. This is an option for anybody that wants to get it, an add-on called an enhanced that would give greater reciprocity when they travel outside of Wyoming. And as any of you who travel with a firearm know, it's a patchwork of laws across the face of the nation. You know, when you drive from one state to the other, you don't know whether you're legal or not. And there's at least one state, that being Minnesota, that requires for certain places, if you want to carry, an enhanced carry, meaning they require live fire training. And then the estimate is that there's probably another, at least half dozen other states where you would improve your concealed carry permit by having an enhanced endorsement. There's some states where nothing is going to allow you to conceal carry. They regulate it so tightly. And then there's some other states where an enhanced concealed carry enables you to carry in different places. So Mississippi, if you have an enhanced permit, you can carry on school, community college, or university property, legislative meetings, any meeting in place of a governing body, bars, churches. And I've got some of the states listed there: Arkansas, Idaho, South Dakota. So this bill, and if I turn to the bill, it's very simple. We go to the concealed carry statute 68104 on page 1. We open up that statute, and on page 2 we add a section DD. And importantly, it starts out, in addition to a permit otherwise authorized under this section. So that's key to say, in addition. So this does not override a current concealed carry permit. It does not interfere in any way with the concealed carry permit that we currently have. This is, you can apply for an enhanced. So an applicant may apply for, and the Attorney General is authorized to issue, an enhanced permit subject to the following. Romanet 1, in addition to meeting all other requirements under this section, that is concealed carry requirements, they shall present evidence that they received training in the safe use of a firearm within 1 year. And that training is demonstrated by line 14, employment as a peace officer, 18, completion of firearms safety or training course. And here it's, and then Romanet 2, firearm training under this and I'm on page 3 now, top of page 3. Firearm training required in this paragraph shall include, line 4, instruction in the fundamentals of firearm use. 7, successful completion of an actual shooting qualifying exercise. And then 10, instruction in legal aspects of permission, carry, and use. And then 15, simply says all the duties of anybody with a concealed carry permit are the same for an enhanced carry permit. And then line 21 says no person under 21 years of age shall be eligible. These states that require live fire very often say they will not recognize a concealed carry of anyone under 21. Not my idea. But to get the enhanced status, we have to do two things, the live fire and the 21. And so don't get the impression that I like it. It's just, if you were gonna have that enhanced carry ability, that's what we have to do. Page 4 at the top. 2, applications for a permit to carry shall be made available and distributed by DCI and local law enforcement. And then 7, I like this, not later than July 1, 2023, the Attorney General shall notify the relevant agency regulating the concealed carry firearms in each state of the enhanced concealed carry permit available under this subsection and take any steps necessary to achieve reciprocity with states that have similar requirements for concealed carry permits. So the process by which states afford reciprocity is not formalized. It's not an interstate compact. It's just states look at the other states' regulations, and if they think a concealed carry permit meets their standards, they just enter it in a law enforcement database that, yeah, a Wyoming permit is good. And we don't get that check off in some states. So that is the enhanced concealed carry. The third one is called capital carry. And there's somewhere between 16 and I think the best estimate is 21 states that allow some form of capital carry. Of the states that are adjacent to Wyoming, allow some form of capital carry, and they've had no incidents: Montana, Utah, Idaho, South Dakota. The bill that we have here is modeled on South Dakota's capital carry. It's more restrictive than most, and that's not my first preference, and perhaps not yours as well, but I wanted to have a place to get started, and thought perhaps that this might give those who were hesitant to vote for the bill some degree of comfort, and that over time, if it stays in the bill, over time we might get it to a bit more to our liking. So to walk you through the bill, page 1 opens up again 68104, the concealed carry statute. And then it makes an exception as to where you are not permitted to carry, and that is the new section EE. Any person who possesses a valid enhanced concealed carry permit pursuant to DD, that's the prior bill, may carry a concealed firearm on the grounds of the state capitol building, including the extension from the capitol building under the Hirschler, provided 13, not less than 24 hours before first entering the capitol, they notify the administrator of the Wyoming State Highway Patrol as designee that they intend to possess a concealed firearm in the state capitol and the date on which, or the date of ranges which they intend to possess. And then page 3, after providing that notice, the person may enter the areas of the state capitol building open to the public carrying a concealed firearm, including any public meeting of the legislature or legislative committee conducted in an area open to the public, but shall not enter any area not open to the public while carrying a concealed firearm. So that's just a way to get started. And then subsequently, I had an opportunity to visit with the chief executive, who then asked the Highway Patrol to take a look at it. And they've talked to other states about what works best in terms of notice. And I think they can give you some feedback on that as well. So that's the 3 bills, and I appreciate your attention, and I'll stand for questions.
Committee, any questions for the sponsor of the bills? Any questions at this point? Senator Ide.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Senator Kinski, or Vice President Kinski, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
We've been seeing a lot of gun bills lately in other committees, and there's a lot of them floating around, just trying to get my head around all of them and how they dovetail together, or which one's better and which ones might pass, and which is the best avenue to go. The question I have on the, let's see which bill here, 149.
Enhanced concealed carry.
Yeah, on the enhanced concealed carry. there's, you get all kinds of information from all the different gun groups and what's good and what's bad and try to digest it all. And is the primary, like I like your testimony when you said that it doesn't affect concealed carry, doesn't affect constitutional carry. It's just an add-on effectively. And the reason for that add-on is for reciprocity reasons in other states that may have those, requirements that you have to go through that enhanced training to get that. The only thing that I don't like about it is just more, fees and training and, to get your Second Amendment rights that you should have. And I know you understand that for sure. But that's the part that, completion of firearms training and, and then the National Rifle Association, that's another, some terminology in there that I know there's so many gun groups and some of them, there's National Association of Gun Rights and there's Gun Owners of America and NRA, and there's probably a plethora of others. And why do you pick NRA on that? I guess those are most of my questions. The fees, the more training, the NRA, that's my question. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Chairman Steinmetz, Senator Ide. First, I agree with you. It's irksome to have to go through this to get concealed carry in some states, but unfortunately, until Congress passes some law mandating uniformity across all states, that's where we are. It's a crazy patchwork. So it's not anything we like, but sometimes it's, especially if you do business in those states, you're routinely in those states, you got to have that option. So I see this as a good option. It's just an option. You said that there's a number of bills that are going around, and it is a dizzying array. These are an incremental approach. I'm not trying to do anything. I guess the best metaphor would be these are rifle shots rather than a shotgun. We're trying to get 3 constructive things done and move the ball down the field. The fees, I don't know what the fees would be by the government. Certainly, my experience, the larger fees come from the training. And then the call out with respect to the NRA is just that their training course is so widely recognized and acknowledged and they've been doing it for so many years that it says something to the legal authorities as to what level of training you've had. So, and I know we've got some things in our Constitution about calling specific things out, but in this instance, I thought it perhaps worthy of exception. So, Chairman, Senator Ide, did I answer Senator Ide's questions?
I think so. Thank you. Any further questions from the committee? All right, stick around. We'll bring you back up when we work the bills.
Madam Chair, could I do just a follow-up?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
Senator Ide, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Vice President Kinski. Would you consider, or could we consider, I don't even know, you guys know these guns, everybody in this room, laws and stuff better than I do, but not limiting it to the NRA? That's my question.
I want to get the bills moving, so I'm open to about any suggestion. And just I felt that was an improvement in the bill just because it's so widely recognized as a training standard.
All right, okay. We'll call you back in a little while. So with
Thank
that,
you.
I see our Good Highway Patrol is here. Would you like to come up and give us some information on these bills? Welcome to the Ag Committee, the Ag and Gun Committee, I guess.
Gunning for grass.
Welcome.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I am Colonel Tim Cameron, the Administrator of the Wyoming Highway Patrol, and with me this evening is Lieutenant Colonel Josh Walther. Very briefly, I would just offer the following. If I would ask that you would make note of the terms not open to the public versus open to the public, and where and how is that defined? Other than that, we're prepared. Highway Patrol is prepared to assimilate to whatever this body enacts in furtherance of our statutory requirements, which is to protect all people in this house, of the Capitol.
All right, and could you tell me which bill you're addressing in what page?
Specifically, I'm sorry, ma'am, Senate File 150.
150, and which page and line?
On page 1, first, it's mentioned in paragraph EE. Any person who possesses a valid enhanced concealed carry permit may carry a concealed firearm in the grounds of the state capitol building, including the extension, and then in II, paragraph, open to the public. That's one of the terms, the allowance of carrying open to in an area open to the public.
Okay.
And then in the final sentence, it says, shall not enter into any area not open to the public while carrying a concealed firearm. I would just submit for potential discussion for clarification on those two terms.
Thank you for that. We appreciate that.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Josh Walther, Lieutenant Colonel for the Wyoming Highway Patrol. Just one more thing I wanted to bring to light is something we noticed in paragraph EE in Senate File 150, line 8. We reference the section may carry a concealed firearm on the grounds of the state capitol building. And what we're trying to change here is the State Building Commission rules, which refers to it as public buildings. It says no dangerous weapons may be carried in public buildings. So I would just recommend or ask for maybe some consistency. I think it muddies the waters when we talk about the Capitol grounds, because right now people can walk around the Capitol grounds outside the Capitol with concealed carry. So maybe just a recommendation is just put the Capitol complex, because we say the Capitol grounds, state Capitol building, including extension from the Capitol building to and under the Hirschler. So really, someone could walk in, if this were all approved and passed, somebody could walk into the underground parking garage, but they couldn't go upstairs. They'd have to come straight over here. So it just seems a little too convoluted. And then in the following paragraph I, we refer to it as the state capitol building and no longer the capitol grounds or the grounds of the state capitol as above. So it's just inconsistent. So just a recommendation to say the state complex, if we're going to allow it, just allow it in the state complex. And as the colonel said, we'll do our best we can to ensure the safety of everyone here, regardless of whether it's passed or not. So just a recommendation for clarity.
All right, so just to clarify, you would want to say the state capitol complex. Is
Correct.
that correct? All right. Thank you for that. We appreciate it. All right. Thank you. All right, thank you. We stick around. We might bring, we do have a question from one of our committee. Senator French.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Officers, so are you guys going to have to go through some kind of training? Because if this passes and somebody comes walking in and concealed carry, and the jacket comes open for whatever reason and you see the gun, it's going to be a transformation for you guys too, isn't it? How are you going to handle that? Just assume everybody could possibly be concealed carry? Or because I imagine in your profession, anytime you see a gun, you're gonna, have a reaction possibly. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, Senator French, as law enforcement, you assume everyone's armed. So what this bill proposes is the law-abiding citizens will tell us. That's one of the requirements in here is you tell the colonel, the administrator, or his designee. So we've discussed best ways to do this, whether folks go online and register and say, I have a concealed carry permit, or I'm going to have a concealed weapon and I'll be at the Capitol on this date, whether it's a legislator or a member of the public, and or they check in with us. We haven't obviously vetted it. The bill's still in proposal right now, but those are up for consideration, how we actually do that, but in some sort of way to track it. We hope folks won't just walk in and open up their trench coat and say, I'm armed, but essentially that's, in a more formal way, that's what we're asking them to do, is to notify us. I hope we can set up something beforehand to where they register it, they go online and say, here's where I'm going to be at what time, and even whether it's the whole session or not, and put that online for us.
Right, I do have one more question for you. On page 3, Romanet II, there's also a reference to the state capitol building there. I'm assuming we'd want to make that the state capitol complex as well, to be conforming. And then would you then strike open to the public and just say the state capitol complex there instead of open to the public?
Madam Chairman.
Yes.
I think I would suggest that when we get to that, so page 3 on line 6 and 7, where it says open to the public but shall not enter any area closed to the public. How does that language work, gentlemen?
Madam Chairman, Senator Hicks, to answer your question, yes, the Capitol complex will be our recommendation for consistency through the bill. And to Senator Hicks' point, I think that's fair. I think that makes it more clear.
All right, I don't see any other state agencies here. So with that, we'll go ahead and open up to public comment in the room. And your comment can be on all 3 bills at once or one bill. So is there anyone from the public that wishes to testify on this bill? Come on up. Welcome to the Ag Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You said the Ag and Gun Committee, and in my volunteer work, I've learned that there's at least 3 committees that are the Ag and Gun, or not Ag and Gun, but that also have Gun Committee tacked on.
All right.
So I think that's a testimony to how many firearms bills there are, and I think Senator Ide already referred to that.
Thank
I
you.
am Beth Howard, and I am a resident of Cheyenne, a longtime resident of Wyoming. And I am here to testify in opposition to both the Senate File 149 and 150. I actually would be very in favor of an enhanced concealed carry permit. I wish it was the permit for concealed carry in this state. But to add another layer of concealed carry permit in a state that allows you to concealed carry without a permit is just confusing things. And I think it's more likely, as soon as the public becomes aware that you can conceal carry at the Capitol, that they'll just come. How many people actually read the law to find in they're supposed to check in or whatever? I think it adds more danger to our public space. And so I think that allowing people to carry in sensitive areas is dangerous. And so I would request that you vote no on SF 149. And on Senate File 150, I just have to say that if more guns in more places would keep us safer, Wyoming would already be the safest place in the nation. And it's not. In fact, we have the 6th highest rate for gun deaths in the nation and the highest suicide rate. And so I just have trouble believing that putting more guns in even more places is going to keep us safer. In a previous testimony today, a good senator told me that there had been a disruption in the Senate gallery and that he wished that he had his firearm with him. And I thought the only thing worse than a shooting in the Senate gallery is a shootout in the Senate gallery. And I just think that there's a chance for more innocent people, and including all of you, to be harmed in injecting more guns into our public spaces. So I would ask that you vote no on Senate File 150. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Is there any questions, committee? Questions of Ms. Howard? Seeing none, thank you for being with us tonight. All right. Who would like to be next to testify on these three bills? Come on down.
Brett Moline, Wyoming Farm Bureau Federation. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to hit all three bills at once. I appreciate all three of them. I support all three of them on the, I believe it's 150. I think having that notice requirement is a great idea. I mean, that's part of your responsibility. If you're going to do this, you need to inform the proper authorities. With that, trying to be brief and hit all three of them, supporting all three. I understand there might need to be some tweaks to them, but would sit for any questions.
All right, any questions, committee? Seeing none, thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. All right, who would like to be next? Come on down. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you. And Madam Chair, my name is Paul Howard, and you might understand the relationship here. I've lived in Cheyenne for 45 years. We raised our family here, and I'm speaking against Senate File 150. I recognize that two of the committee members are sponsors, and I also believe that adding that enhanced permit requirement does provide some safeguards, so I applaud you for at least doing that. But as you heard earlier, I wish that was the rule for anybody with concealed carry. Not to have training with live fire, but to be able to carry a weapon around is just plain dangerous. But I don't believe those safeguards are enough. I've worked at the Capitol. My family comes to the Capitol. We bring visitors to this great building. At no time have I ever believed that more guns would bring greater safety to anyone. In my mind, it does exactly the opposite. Truly, if you believe we need more security in the Capitol, you need to hire more professional security people. Thank you.
All right, any questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Howard. All right, any further testimony? Further testimony in the room? As soon as we're finished there, come on up. As soon as we finish in the room, we'll go. We have a couple people online. Welcome.
Hello, good evening, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee. I am Mara McManaman, fourth generation Wyomingite from Torrington and Goshen County. I am a disabled veteran here as a private citizen. I am 100% in support of SF 148, 149, and 150. I would ask you all to please vote aye on these bills. Thank you, and I sit for questions.
Any questions, committee? All right, thank you so much.
All right. Good evening, Madam Chairwoman, Mayor's Committee, Mark Moody, Laramie County here in Cheyenne, Senate District 31, members of four gun rights groups, including USCCA. I support the first bill, as the Honorable Vice President said, cleans it up because, there's problems with the federal government going after firearm rights. The second bill, there was a question asked about training. I'd say there's another one called USSCA. It's a concealed, pretty much as insurance if you have to use your firearm in a situation. They have online training. They actually offer training also too in the area. I know some of it's in Colorado, but they do offer live training and all that if anyone wants to look that up. It's a pretty good organization, so it's like insurance. And then finally, for the third one, it's a good bill. The only thing I would say is, if there's any wiggle room for the regular concealed carry permits, I know the enhanced can take a little longer to get, because I know in other states it does take longer. That's the only thing I have. But otherwise, 100% support it. Support our gun rights. Happy to take questions.
All right, any questions, committee? Senator Ide.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and it's Mara and Mark.
Yes.
I just want to thank you guys for testifying. I've seen you a lot today and appreciate your dedication to stick up for our gun rights. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Madam
All
Chairwoman.
right. Come on down. Welcome to the Ag Committee.
Madam Chair and Senators, thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Mark Jones. I'm a National Director with Gun Owners of America. I live in Johnson County, Wyoming. And I would like to talk about all three bills separately. First, I want to thank Senator Kinski for bringing these forward. They're good starting points, and fixing the preemption statute is a very important thing. It's a no-brainer. As he said, shortest bill in Wyoming history, and we support that. The other two are a little more complicated. I want to put some things in perspective about the enhanced carry permit. Based upon our research, if Wyoming were to establish an enhanced carry permit, it might, and I emphasize the word might, grant reciprocity with 3 additional states. Those are Delaware, Washington, and Minnesota. And I base that upon the fact that North Dakota, their enhanced carry permit grants reciprocity with 3 states that do not recognize Wyoming's permit. The other 10 states that do not recognize our permit will never recognize anything we do here. California, New York, New Jersey, Illinois, I could go on and on. So I just want to put it in perspective. What an enhanced carry permit would actually do for reciprocity is grant 3, maybe 3 more states, and that would be up to the Attorney General of those 3 states. So I think we have to be very careful about what we tell the public we're doing with this enhanced carry permit. If that was the only purpose for this permit, we could support it. But we're very concerned that this permit becomes something that is used to create different classes of firearms owners within the cowboy state. And I think that the third bill does exactly that. It requires an additional class of permit that currently doesn't exist for citizens to have access to their rights to enter their house, their buildings. And I want to put some things in perspective about capital carry. 21 states currently allow capital carry. 8 of those are concealed only. 13 of those allow open carry in the Capitol. We were at an event in Lincoln, Nebraska last week, and there were 400 armed people in the Capitol. Nobody got shot. 21 states allow capital carry. We act like we're going to open up the wild, wild west here. I think that we should be looking at a bill similar to what's in House Bill 105 that allows carry under existing statutes in all Wyoming government buildings with existing procedures, no new permits. I believe that an enhanced carry permit to exercise a citizen's rights in this state is a step backwards in Wyoming. There's no evidence that that capital carry leads to death and destruction. People are not getting shot. I think everybody on this committee understands that gun-free zones disarm law-abiding people. They make a place more likely for there to be a crime. You guys are down there you're in a shooting gallery when you're in that Senate. If a criminal comes up there into that gallery, you're in a shooting gallery. You should hope there are law-abiding people in that chamber, armed. And we just oppose the creation of another class of permit to get there. Let's get there a better way. John Lott, who's the preeminent researcher on firearm statistics in America, runs the Crime Research Prevention Center. Very well known. He's been doing this stuff 40 years or more. He's got some interesting statistics on concealed carry holders based on his research. The general population commits 3,800 crimes per 100,000 people. Police commit 103 crimes per 100,000 people. Much, much lower than the general population, and that's good. I'm a big fan of the police. Concealed carry holders commit fewer crimes than the police. You can go look these statistics up yourselves. So I urge the committee to think about a way to allow the Wyoming citizens to access not just the Capitol, but all government buildings under existing Wyoming law. I applaud the senator for bringing forth these concepts, but we are not in favor of enhanced carry permits for Wyoming citizens to exercise their rights. And so we're concerned about the idea that it would be used in the state of Wyoming. You want to use it to get reciprocity, maybe with 3 states, maybe, but not within the state of Wyoming. And I thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, Madam Chair.
All right, I think we've got one. Senator French.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just a comment on your comment with that incident in the Senate chambers. And I was on the floor, and as that was unfolding, I was watching the individual, and all the time I'm like, man, if this continues to escalate, I hope somebody's got a gun. Honest to God, that was what I was thinking.
Yes, sir.
So it's just a comment.
All right, Senator Hicks, did you have a question?
I'm just contemplating, I think what my colleague said is he hopes a good guy has a gun. But I hope that was going through your mind, Senator. It was a good guy with a gun.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. So, Mr. Jones, how many states have open carry in with the capital carry? You know that number?
It's my understanding that 21 that allow firearms, only 8 require that they be concealed. And I am assuming that is through the concealed carry process. But many states allow open carry under constitutional provisions and that kind of thing, similar to what Wyoming does, out, not here, but out on the street.
So, Madam Chairman, just to follow up, Mr. Jones, when you guys have run your analysis, and I'm just talking concealed carry permits across all states, how much variation do you see from state to state? Obviously, each state writes their own regulations, so how much variation is there within the existing concealed carry? I mean, does it range all the way from very restrictive, enhanced type of concealed carry all the way down to just open constitutional carry?
Madam Chair, Senator, well, to try to answer your question, 26 states have constitutional carry now. So you don't even need a concealed carry permit in 26 states. That movement has grown dramatically. So in 26 states, the only reason to have a concealed carry permit is for reciprocity, because you don't need it within your state.
Now, if I can, Madam Chairman, before we lose that train of thought, so that we have constitutional carry in Wyoming.
Yes, sir.
And it's 26 states that have constitutional carry, but I'm sure there's probably some like Wyoming that also have restrictions on public meeting places or other. So of the 26 that have constitutional carry, how many of those would then further restrict that constitutional carry, like we have gun-free zones, we can't carry in public places, capital? I'm trying to figure out where we fit in that scenario within those 20, because we're one of those 26.
Mm-hmm.
Do all 26 just allow capital carry with their constitutional carry? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Madam Chair, Senator, yeah, I think we're kind of middle of the pack. I think among those 26, some extend that constitutional carry to the Capitol and government buildings, some restrict it. And we're kind of in that, well, we restrict it. We're the only state, all the states that border us allow capital carry except Colorado in some form or fashion. So we're a little more restrictive on the capital carry government building side of things than a lot of constitutional carry states. If that kind of gets to your question. But you're right, it's a spider web of regulations. There's no way to say every state does this or that, but we're probably middle of the pack in terms of restricting it in our, we have this constitutional carry for citizens in most places, but then we restrict it in our capital and our government buildings. And it's interesting to me again that the states that border us, except Colorado, do allow capital carry in some form. Colorado allows it for their legislators, which you talk about a kind of an elitist view. Only the legislature can carry in the Capitol in Denver. We certainly would not recommend that, but I hope I answered your question. If I didn't, I'd be glad to follow up,
Yeah.
Senator.
Madam Chairman, you could have stopped earlier. You're scaring me now with what's going on south of the border.
Yes, sir.
May want to have to build a wall between there and Colorado.
You satisfied, Senator Hicks?
Yes, I am, Madam Chair.
All right, I think he's finished for now. We'll let you off the hot seat. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senators, for the
All
opportunity.
right. Okay, anyone else in the room? Any more public comment in the room? If not, Pierre, let's go online. Our first registered guest is Michelle St. Louis. All right, Michelle, let us know when you're online. All right, we're not able to hear you very well. Welcome to the Ag Committee. Let's see if we can get your microphone working.
Do you want me to run it? It worked earlier. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So my name is Michelle Sabrowski. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Ms. Chairwoman and members of the committee. I'm Michelle St. Louis with, I don't even know my own last name these days, with Wyoming Gun Owners. I am the membership coordinator and I represent our membership here in Wyoming. We're taking pretty much the same. I know you guys are gonna like hold on to your hats because I'm gonna tell you that we're agreeing with GOA on this bill. We have some concerns on House Bill or on Senate File 150. Page 2, line 6 through 7 already starts out pretty bad. It's pretty presumptive in that it has legislation. It's legislation based on legislation that hasn't even passed yet. Because it has the requirement that there has to be the enhanced concealed carry, which doesn't even exist in our state right now. So that's a little iffy, and I think it's a little presumptive to run legislation based on legislation that hasn't even passed. Page 2, line 13 through 21 requires a Wyoming citizen of legal age who already has the right, thanks to constitutional carry, to carry a firearm, open or concealed, without a permit. Right? We all can do that. We can all pretty much go wherever except a government building. And now it requires those same people to have an enhanced concealed carry permit that doesn't even exist, and it requires them to have requires them that you Wyoming citizen notify the state 24 hours in advance that they intend to carry at the Capitol, which is a complete infringement on, I mean, that's like the opposite of freedom. That's adding regulation. So this is basically begging the government for permission to exercise what our state constitution and our state statutes pertaining to constitutional carry already give us, the Wyoming citizens of legal age, to do without a permit. So it adds excessive regulation and restrictions onto something that should already be a right and a freedom. Page 3, line 1 through 7 is absolutely absurd and raises the questions that the committee should probably be asking themselves. If a person is legally able to be where they are, how can they be limited in where they can go or where they can conceal carry, assuming they already adhere to every requirement on page 2? So saying that they can carry everywhere, assuming that they got the enhanced carry permit, assuming that they went and notified the Capitol Police that they're going to be there 24 hours in advance, making the assumptions that they jump through all of those hoops, and now they're walking around the Capitol. What's going to make you think that they're going to go into a place that they're not allowed to be? So why is that even in the bill? It's just, I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's just something that that I think the committee should consider just getting, it's stupid. So basically, I guess that's about it, because Mr. Jones made pretty much all the same points that we were prepared to make today here. Some of them I reiterated on. I am concerned that we're making that we have legislation that's based off of another piece of legislation passing that hasn't even passed yet, and I think that's very presumptive and arrogant. But right now, this bill is just it's got way too many concerns in it for us to support it. And of course, we support capital carry. We support the notion of capital carry. We want to repeal all gun-free zones. We don't think there should be any. And we can't get behind this bill in its current form. And I can stand for any questions.
All right, well, let's refrain from motive as arrogant and things like that in our testimonies, but thank you for being with us. I'm glad to hear the two gun groups are working together on this one, and thank you for your testimony. Any questions for Ms. St. Louis? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony and being with us in the Ag Committee.
Thank you.
All right, the next person is Brian Gosh. Can we admit him? All right. Brian, are you with us?
I think so.
All right. Welcome
see?
to the Ag Committee, and please state your name and who you're with and begin your testimony.
Well, I don't know if you can see me or not.
We cannot.
Okay, let me see what I can do to change that.
All right.
Okay, how's that?
That's perfect. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me tonight. My name is Brian Gosh. I'm a lawyer and registered lobbyist with the National Rifle Association. Here to testify in favor of all three bills, and I'd like to thank Senator Kinski for bringing these three bills and advancing the football. Sometimes a little bit, sometimes a lot when it comes to Second Amendment rights, but all three bills do advance the football and enhance amendment rights in Wyoming. In reference to the first bill, Senate Bill 148, the preemption enhancement bill, as some of the cities get larger, we've seen them try to get around the rules, like Omaha, Lincoln, Nebraska, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Missoula, Montana. They try to get creative. And so there comes a time when you need to tighten up the preemption laws. So to kind of recap what the preemption law does is it says there are certain areas of the law where the state should be the sole determiner of what those rules are. For example, in Wyoming, taxation, traffic rules, the rules of the road, gun rights. The state has said, we're going to determine what that is. So no matter where you travel in Wyoming, those rules are going to be the same with limited exceptions. You're going to allow a town to modify some of the speed limits within town, but generally across the state, they're all going to be the same. And the same with gun. You need to have that uniformity across the state. Passing Senate Bill 148 will make the fix as pointed out by the court. Now, whether you agree with how the court decided that case or not in Williams versus Wyoming, how they interpreted how the statutes can be read together, this will fix that issue and take that out of consideration so that it's clear that the gun laws that the state sets apply statewide, whether it's a firearm made in Wyoming or anywhere else in the country or the world. So in reference to Senate Bill 149, this is the enhanced concealed carry. This sets up that new permit, like Senator Kinski said. It doesn't change any of the existing laws. All that stays the same for constitutional carry and permitted carry for reciprocity purposes in the states. This will set up a new permit that's completely optional if you want to go through the training, if you want to pay for it. If you're a hapless Minnesota Vikings fan like I am and you want to travel to Minnesota and be able to legally carry concealed, including carrying concealed in their Capitol building in St. Paul and in their government buildings and their courthouses, like Minnesota allows, and I'll talk more about that with the next bill, then you can apply for and get this enhanced permit. The two things that Minnesota looks at more than anything else is age 21 and the live fire exercise for getting that permit. And so if you choose to pay for that training and get that permit, then the state of Wyoming will apply to Minnesota. The Minnesota will take a look at it. And based on the success other states have had with a program like this, Minnesota should grant reciprocity. They only grant reciprocity to 15 states. And we think by passing this law, Wyoming will become the 16th state. So South Dakota passed a law similar to this about 8 years ago. None of the potential pitfalls you heard of from the opponents have occurred. This didn't set up any type of weird or unusual class of permitting that everybody changed all the other rules to mirror this. It just provides that optional permit that if you want to get it for reciprocity purposes, you can. And that did work. North Dakota as well set up a similar situation. They call it a class 1 permit. In South Dakota, it's called the enhanced permit. And that allows reciprocity in Minnesota. When South Dakota did it, it added other states like Nebraska and Wisconsin, South Carolina, Washington. But the difference between a state like Washington and a state like Wyoming is Washington also requires a fingerprinting a rule, and that's not going to be in this bill. So Washington for reciprocity probably won't happen, but Minnesota is certainly viable. And then getting that additional enhanced carry options in some of those other states, like Senator Kinski testified to, that will also likely occur. So as far as the training component goes, there were questions about why include the National Rifle Association. If you look at the bill, it also includes, I want to make sure I get the language correct here. It also includes, or the Wyoming Law Enforcement Academy. But the reason for the National Rifle Association is that over the last 50 years, the NRA has trained over 55,000 law enforcement firearm instructors and currently has over 11,000 certified instructors across the country. And so when you look at availability and best option for where you're going to find certified instructors, that's where it's at. Finally, Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'd like to talk about Senate File 150. This is the capital carry bill. Some of you might know I'm a former legislator from South Dakota. I was Speaker of the House. And one of the things we took a look at when I was there was who provides safety and security for the legislators. And the Highway Patrol, at least in that state, said our first obligation is to the governor and the governor's staff, and second obligation is to the public. And they considered legislators to be part of the public. And so we looked at ways to improve our own self-defense options because, as you heard, there are some, you tend to be in an inferior position in that fishbowl on the floor of the Senate or House chambers. And what we could do to improve our own self-defense capabilities by allowing us to carry in the Capitol. So one of the things that was eventually agreed upon, and again, it advanced the football. It wasn't what I wanted personally. It didn't go as far as some of us would have liked, but we got our foot in the door by using this enhanced permit then and giving notice to the superintendent of Highway Patrol in South Dakota that you're going to carry. The one change that was made to this in South Dakota was that when you do give notice, and instead of for a specific period of time, it's just good for the whole calendar year. So as soon as you give notice, it's good for all of 2023, for example. But I'd like to compare and contrast that to the state of Minnesota, because for decades, capital carry has been allowed there. There are no metal detectors to get into any of the doors to the building. The Supreme Court meets in the Capitol complex as well from time to time. The governor's office is in the state Capitol building. There's a Senate office building and a state office building where the representatives all have offices that are separate from the Capitol, but the carrying of firearms is allowed in all three of the buildings. And there have been no reported issues. No one's opening their jacket to show off a firearm. The rule there is you have to have a carry permit. They don't have separate classes of permits. Their carry permit would be the equivalent of this enhanced permit in Wyoming. But there just, like I said, there just have been no reported problems for carrying in the Capitol. You heard from one person that Colorado allows capital carry for legislators. I don't have that same information. My information says that they can't, but they do from time to time because the legislators don't have to go through metal detectors and there's nothing to stop them from carrying. But I'm not aware of a law that allows legislators to carry in Colorado. But all the other states do have some form of capital carry. In Montana, you can constitutional capital carry. You don't have to have a permit at all. And that's something we passed in 2021 with House Bill 102. That also expanded carrying in other previously prohibited areas like banks, bars, restaurants, college campuses, and of course the Capitol. This version of the bill, Senate File 150, as testified to by Senator Kinski, is similar to the one that passed in South Dakota to get the ball started, to get it ball rolling, or I should say, to get our foot in the door on allowing for capital carry and the public to engage in self-defense. Unfortunately, in South Dakota, as part of the sausage making process, if you will, the executive offices were exempted. They wanted their exemption. The unified judicial system wanted their exemption. They got it. But for all the other public areas of the Capitol in South Dakota, you can legally carry if you have your carry permit and you give notice to the superintendent of highway patrol. And again, when we passed that in South Dakota, there were several opponents who claimed there would be this parade of horribles. All these bad things would happen if you allow this, and none of that has happened. And in all the surrounding states, you could do a search online. You're not going to find incidents where there's been a problem with carrying, legally allowing capital carry. And I've also testified to law enforcement. My friends in law enforcement agencies say they're trained to treat everyone as if they might be armed. So I don't think that's going to change how they have to deal with anybody. And I guess I'll conclude my testimony with that and thank the committee again for allowing me to testify. I wish I could have been there. I had planned to be there. The committee hearing happened later in the week, and I'm in St. Paul today, and I'm providing testimony against some gun control bills tomorrow morning. So with that, I'll stand by for questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gosh. Any questions? All right, Senator Hicks.
Yeah, Brian, a quick question on Senate File 150. With this capital carry, with this enhanced permit, I was looking at the reciprocity one. You talked a lot about Minnesota, but have you guys done any detailed analysis? Is there other states other than Minnesota that this enhanced concealed carry permit would provide reciprocity for?
Well, I think Washington would be an option if you also added the requirement that you be fingerprinted. I think they have a fingerprint requirement with their carry permit, and they would require that for reciprocity.
And so right now it'd probably just be Minnesota?
For your most yes, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. Yes, for most of your general carry, but you might be able to carry in some additional places in some other states if you had that full reciprocity.
All right, thank you.
All right, any other questions, committee? All right, thank you for being with us tonight. We appreciate it. All right, committee. Any other public testimony? Seeing none. Going once, going twice. Public testimony is closed. Committee, what's your pleasure?
Madam Chairman, I move Senate File 148.
All right, Senate File 148 has been moved. Do I have a second? Seconded by Ide, moved by Hicks.
Madam Chairman, I call for the question.
All right, any discussion on the bill? Discussion on the bill, seeing none, would you call the roll, please, Linda?
Senator French.
Aye.
Senator Hicks.
Aye.
Senator Ide.
Aye.
Senator Kolb.
Aye.
Chairman Steinmetz.
Aye.
Madam Chairman, there are 5 ayes.
We have 5 ayes. That bill has passed, and Senator Kinski will carry that on the floor. What's your pleasure with the next bill, Senate File 149 Committee.
Madam Chairman, I move Senate File 149.
Okay, Senate File 149's been moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Kolb, moved by Hicks. Are there any amendments?
Madam Chairman, I have an amendment, but I'm not going to bring it
Senator
now.
Kinski, would you like to come up and join us for the working of your bill?
Madam Chairman, I do think that when we get to page 2 and look down from line 17 to 21, I think there was a suggestion from somebody from the audience that we include other potential instructors. Madam Chairman, what I'd like to do is, rather than throw an amendment out there right now, is just flag that for something to work with the sponsor. I do think we ought to look at all potentially alternatives to just NRA or the Wyoming Law Enforcement Academy if there's something comparable. But what I'm struggling with is how do we make a determination what's comparable? So, Madam Chairman, I don't have an amendment. I want to flag that to work with the sponsor on that as a potential amendment.
All right. Are there any other amendments to this bill? Senator Ide.
No, just discussion on the bill. That's-
Okay, well, let's finish
the
amendments
amendment, I mean.
first. Oh,
Yeah.
discussion on the amendment. Go ahead, Senator Ide.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's good testimony again tonight. I tend to agree with some of the gun owners associations. This amendment that Hicks brought was what I brought up. That's one thing that I could potentially get in line with if there was some work on that possibly, or how we go about that. I'm not sure whether committee of the whole or not, or this committee, basically.
Committee of the
It'd
whole.
be a committee of the whole. Yeah, with some amendments on this particular bill, that's, I could maybe get behind this one. The next one's maybe a little different. Thank you,
All
Madam
right,
Chair.
thank you, Senator Ide. Senator Kinski, do you have a comment on that?
Madam Chair, I'll get to work on seeing what I can find out. I do know that it's important that there be a certificate that's recognized. And so that might be the key, is some kind of national recognition of the certification. So I'll get to work and see what I can find out.
All right, thank you. All right, any further amendments or comments on the bill? Okay, discussion on the bill. Any discussion?
Madam Chairman,
Go ahead, Senator Hicks. Turn on your mic.
I'm gonna move this bill forward for discussion. I do think there were some things pointed out, but I think the most compelling thing for me right now is it's voluntary. And for all those people that want to go to Minnesota, if they want to go through a process, I certainly wouldn't want to make a criminal out of them by driving in there with their firearm because they had a Wyoming concealed carry. But the fact that it's permissive, it's not required, I think that we ought to put it out onto the floor for some further discussion. I'd like to hear the debate with the full Senate. So I'm going to support this bill and work on that amendment and see where we go from there, Madam Chairman.
All right, thank you, Senator Hicks. Any other comments on the bill? All right, Linda, would you please call the roll?
Senator French.
Aye.
Senator Hicks.
Aye.
Senator Ide.
Aye.
Senator Kolb.
Aye.
Chairman Steinmetz.
Aye.
Madam Chairman, there are 5 ayes.
All right, the bill passes, and Senator Kinski will also floor manage that bill. That brings us to Senate File 150 Committee. What is your pleasure?
Move the bill.
Moved by Cole,
Madam Chairman, I'll second it.
seconded by Hicks. Senator Cole, did you have some amendments on the bill?
I did. Could I pass out
Yes,
the committee?
all right.
Whoops. there's one there. You need it?
We're good. Take it away, Senator Cole.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. What this amendment does is removes first the enhanced carry permit necessity, and it goes back to just a concealed carry permit. There's conforming language, and also it takes away the 24-hour notice and requires notice to be given. So you would have to give notice to law enforcement that you are carrying, and it has conforming language changes. I can read it in if you'd like, Madam Chairman.
That would be good. And Linda, do you have a copy? Okay, would you mind sending a copy over to Linda? So that
Should be an extra one.
got it.
Oh, no, there would have been an extra one.
Thank you. Okay, take us through your amendment, please, line by line.
All right, Madam Chairman. Page 1, line 2, striking providing, then going to line 3, that a section of this contingent upon passage of a separate bill, that was taken out because this is going to be a standalone bill instead of connected to the other bill.
Hang on a
Could you go
second.
over that one more time?
Page
Okay,
one,
line
two.
Providing.
Okay, line 3 on page 1, strike that entire line.
Okay.
Then go to line 4 and strike bill. Okay?
Okay,
Then we turn to page 2, line 6, strike enhanced. Then page 2, line 7, strike subsection DD of. Page 2, line 13, strike not less than 24 hours. Next line, and first, insert before entering, immediately upon.
Okay, would you mind backing up? So line 13, scratch that whole line.
Yeah, well, everything but I.
delete balance of the line.
Oh, you ready?
Okay,
Then line 14.
And strike first and insert immediately upon.
Okay.
It's on that list there, so
Yeah.
I tried to make it, if you could reference it. Then we go to line, are you ready to move on?
yes,
Page
correct.
3,
Please go ahead.
line 14, strike 14 and 15. Page 4, strike, I don't look at my notes here, I don't have the entire section, or I think it's the entire section, down to 12, and then insert. I didn't write all this down, so I'll read it. Insert section 3 at the bottom of the page, and I mean, in conforming placement. Then go to A, and it says, except as provided in subsection B of this section, comma, in line 20, well, the next line, this act is effective July 1 of 2023. And then B, sections 2 and 3 of this act are effective immediately upon completion of all acts necessary for this bill to become law as provided by Article 4, comma, Section 8 of the Wyoming Constitution.
Okay. All right, committee, did everyone get that?
Yes, Madam Chairman,
Go ahead.
Senator Cole, did you provide a copy of that to Senator Kensky? The amendment?
Yeah,
Okay.
and Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
And I interlineated it. Do you want me to try and run through to confirm with the sponsor that we've got it all down?
It's up to you. Go ahead and
Okay.
make sure that you've got it all down.
On page 1, line 2, strike at the end, providing. Line 3, strike the entire line. Line 4, strike bill. Page 2. Line 7.
6.
6.
Also, line 6, strike enhanced at the end.
Mhm.
Line 7, strike subsection DD of.
Correct.
Line 13, strike the entire line, keeping the Romanet I. Line 14, strike the word first and insert immediately upon.
Correct.
Page 3, strike lines 14 and 15. Page 4, strike all of 1 through 10 and insert a new section 3 with the language as was reviewed.
That's correct.
And Madam Chair, just if I may, I wanted to confirm with the amendment sponsor that the net effect is effective immediately. You want the building commission to start promulgating regulations, and that was part of what was in there originally. The part about concealed carry comes July 1. I presume that's to give the HP Highway Department a chance to get ready. Okay. All right.
All right, is that,
And Madam Chair,
right.
I regard it as a friendly amendment, and
Okay.
if I may, I want to emphasize, there were some folks that I said it many times during my testimony. Enhanced as a condition is not my preference. The thought is that it might give some, we've had bills fail narrowly. And the idea is that it might give some comfort to people who didn't want to vote to otherwise vote for it. But I'm fine with it being gone. I prefer it being gone.
all right.
Yeah, I don't want anybody thinking I endorse the idea of enhanced. It was just seeing if we might be able to help move the ball. And I just want to say I agree with the Highway Patrol. I assume everyone is armed.
All right, thank you, Senator Kinsey. All right, everyone understands. Question on the amendment being called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the amendment has been adopted. We're back on the bill. Are
Madam
there?
Chairman, I have an amendment.
All right, we have another amendment. What is your amendment?
Page 1, line 1,
Okay,
end of the sentence, strike on. Line 2, the grounds of, insert in, and then it will say the state capital, after capital, insert complex. Mr. Chairman, or Madam Chairman, and if you go over to page 2, line 8, after firearm, insert the word in, strike on the grounds of the, line 9, after capital, insert complex, period. Strike the balance of that line,
so building,
including the extension from the, strike all of line 10 and all of line 11. Madam Chairman,
let's reread that sentence before we go on.
any person who possesses a valid concealed carry permit pursuant to this section may carry a concealed firearm in, we need to include the word the state capitol complex.
Okay, and period. Linda, did you get that?
In the
In the,
state capitol complex, period.
all right. Senator Kinsey and Linda, did you get that?
I did, and I don't think Senator Hicks is done though yet.
No, we're just, we take it slowly here.
Gotcha.
All right, keep going.
So page 2, line 14. After capital, strike building, insert complex.
Okay.
Page 2, line 18, after capital, strike building. Insert complex.
All right.
Page 2, line 21, strike building, insert complex. Madam Chairman, page 3, line 3, strike after capital, strike building, insert complex. Madam Chairman, page 3, line 6. Last word in the sentence, not, strike that.
Let's see, say that one again, would you?
So go to page 3, line 6,
Okay,
the last word,
okay,
So after area.
okay, got it, yep,
strike not.
okay.
Okay.
Page 3, line 7, strike open and insert close. So that will say, shall not enter any area closed to the public while carrying a concealed firearm. That's the amendment, Madam Chairman. Most of it's just conforming language.
So, do I have a second on that motion? All right, so it's been moved and seconded. My one question would just be, are we preventing ourselves from entering an area closed to the public with a firearm?
Yeah, Madam Chairman, if it's closed to the public, like the governor's office, you just can't walk into the governor's office. So if it's closed to the public, you couldn't carry a concealed firearm in there, or concealed carry permit.
Madam Chair.
So, one more
Maybe you just
question
wanna
real
get
quick.
rid of the whole closed thing.
Yeah, because that was my question. So say we want to go into the president's office off the floor, onto the floor of the legislature, then we can't carry our firearm there.
It doesn't say that, Madam Chairman. It says closed to the public. And so my assumption would be there that we would go through a process. There are certain places that you would post that sign. It's our chambers, when we're in session, on the floor is closed to the public.
Okay, all right.
I don't know that, you could just get rid of that section if you wanted to, but
Senator Kinski, go ahead, weigh in.
Well, it does, I hadn't caught that before, but it does seem to preclude carrying on the floor when in session. So I don't, I'm open to suggestions to how to fix that. If anybody has any ideas, otherwise I'll have to wordsmith it with LSO.
What if we just, Senator Kinski and Senator Hicks, what if we just put a period after, on line 4 after concealed firearm, period?
Madam Chair, where?
So after, I'm working this out in my head as we go, so bear with me. After providing notice under paragraph I of this subsection, the person may enter the areas of the state capitol complex open to the, well, I would take out open to the public. I would just say carrying a concealed firearm, period. Unless you want to prohibit them going somewhere. It's a suggestion.
well, I think it becomes redundant. I think if you read that whole section, after providing notice under paragraph I of this subsection, the person may enter into an area of the state capitol complex open to the public carrying a concealed firearm. I think you're right, Madam Chairman. We just, if it's not open, you can't go there. Just put a period after concealed firearm and strike the rest of 4, all of 5, 6, and 7. I think it does the exact same thing.
Senator Kinski,
Can I ask you a quick question, Madam Chair?
go ahead.
Just, what about the legislators, since that room is not open to the public, does that does that language prohibit them from carrying into the chambers?
Senator, that's exactly what my thought was and why I wondered if
I know,
we needed
yeah,
it
yeah.
open to the public part taken out, because otherwise we're prohibiting ourselves from carrying on the floor and into our office areas or the back hallways we have to use our key card to get into, all of that. Because basically, my thinking is if it's not open to the public, they're not going to be in there anyway without invitation. So it seems redundant to me, but
Madam Chair,
yes, go ahead, Senator Kinski.
I kind of got lost in that discussion somewhere, but the State Building Commission, can't we by rule handle that? Can't the Senate by rule?
Grant legislators. I don't know, but Madam Chairman, because this becomes statutory framework in the green books, I don't know that then they can write rules that supersede or overturn a statute.
Well,
Madam Chairman, this is what I would suggest. It's late. We've had 2 really long days in a row. Let's leave that to work that instead of trying to cobble something together at this point in time. So my motion, Madam Chairman, we can just leave that stand, and then if we need to, we can work with the sponsor on both the amendment and the bill to work on that section and do that as a committee of the whole amendment. So we would adopt my amendment as proposed, and we may end up deleting that section anyway. But rather than going back and having to pull that out of the amendment, it would probably be easier just to adopt it now.
all right, Senator Hicks, why don't you remind us what your amendment on that page was?
I was trying to get away from, on that page? Oh, just that page, good.
Just that page. I think, Linda,
So,
did you
Madam
get the
Chairman,
rest of
on
them?
page 3, line 3, delete building, insert complex.
Okay.
Page,
And then,
page
okay.
6, end of the line, delete not. Line 7, delete open and insert close.
All right. So committee, for now, that's the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? No? All right, the amendment has been adopted. Is there any further discussion on the bill?
So, Madam Cole, Your Honor, it's been a long day, Madam Cole.
Madam Cole understands.
Senator Hicks?
Madam
That's
Chairman.
why we try to
So
be done by 8
assuming-
o'clock.
So my colleague and my friend, Senator Kolb and Senator Kinski, will work on that section and come up with something for committee of the whole amendment. Just to make sure we're all in agreement that that's what we're doing.
All right, are we all in agreement that that is what we're doing?
Senator Kinski?
Senator Kinski?
absolutely, I get it, and I'll be working with Madam Kolb to see that we get there. If I could just ask the majority floor leader not to
All
bring it
right.
up until we.
Okay, so
Ready.
why don't we vote on the bill? How about that before we're
We gotta
done?
vote on the amendment first.
Well, we already voted on the amendment. We passed the
vote
amendment.
on
The
it
amendment has been adopted. So we are taking roll call on the bill now before we get nothing done. Senate File 150, capital carry. Please call the roll.
Senator French.
Aye.
Senator Hicks.
Aye.
Senator Ide.
Aye.
Senator Kolb.
Aye.
Chairman Steinmetz.
Aye.
Madam
All
Chairman, there are
right.
5 ayes.
Thank you, Linda. All right, Senator Kinski, we have some work to do. We'll help you with that all we can. And thank you, everyone, for being here tonight, and we'll meet again next